this video, we're going to prep a Logic Pro session ready to send to a mixing engineer or someone you're collaborating with. This is a really important step for workflow. It means whoever opens up the track is going to be able to just start working on it straight away and not waste any time figuring out what stuff is. It's super, super helpful as a mixing engineer, as a producer. I just wish more people knew how to do this stuff. So I'm going to make this video and hopefully it's easy enough that people can do it. So there's three main steps. We've got to tidy up the tracks, we've got to tidy up the takes, and we've got to tidy up the plugins. First thing to do is make sure that we save a copy. That way, if we do anything wrong or delete anything, we can go back to our original, and we're going to create a copy just to send to this person. So let's go in, and the first thing that we'll do is save as. We don't want to save a copy as because that restricts some of the options. So we'll just do save as. The song is called Saccharin. So why don't I put my artist name at the beginning, and then at the end I can put for Ed because I'm going to send it to myself. And then all of these settings are fine here. Package, audio files. You want to include this stuff. That way, if they don't have that content, it'll be included in the project. If you sent it over without some of the sampler information, then it wouldn't play back the same. But include Apple Sound Library content. If you open a session and you don't have that content, Logic will prompt you and ask you to download it. So whether you click that option is optional, in fact, and we're not doing a movie, so that's fine. So we'll save that. The next step is we want to make sure we delete anything that isn't useful. I do receive sessions with unused tracks in, and it's annoying because eventually I'll accidentally unmute it or something, and it's just spending time on stuff that doesn't even need to be there. So the first thing that we can do is find something that isn't being used, like these are not being used, so we can just delete them. Boom, that easy. If there's a track where you're not sure whether you want to include it and you're checking with that person, just call it that. Like here, I've got some tracks called don't like, probably don't use, but I've also included the panning information, right? So if they do use it, it probably should be left and right, but there you go. Next thing we want to do is make sure all the tracks that we are going to use are clearly labeled. So you can see here, we've got guitar lead 1, this group, but inside it, things aren't really labeled very well. So we could put this as G for guitar, lead, chorus, left. And then let's copy and paste that. And I'm just Command A to select all, tabbing to move down a track, pasting with Command V, and then just changing that to be R. The other really good thing about labeling things correctly is if you've got like 2 lead guitar parts in the chorus, right? One's the lead and one's the harmony. If they're both just called lead and you get to mix notes and someone's saying, turn up the guitar lead in the chorus, well, which one is it? And do you mean both? It's really, really helpful. It really speeds things up later down the line just to get this stuff nailed right before you send the session. Another really cool thing when you're labeling is put a common letter at the beginning of all the groups, right? So here you can see I've got all of my drums have a D for drum at the beginning. And what that means is if anyone creates stems or bounces any tracks out, when they pull them into a new session, they're just going to be next to each other. So they don't have to faff around moving like kick, which is halfway through the alphabet, goes next to snare, which is near the end of the alphabet, right? So like I spend loads of time reorganizing tracks like that, and it's well boring basically. Great, so now we've got everything labeled nicely, we can maybe start putting some colors in. So if you go to the mix window, press X to open that, we've got these crashes here. Now they don't all need to be a different color, and I like to color my percussion stuff orange. So we can press Option C to open the color palette, and then we can make them the same color as all the other percussion tracks. So that's looking good, but to be really pro, what we can do is we can select all and hold Option Shift and press N to relabel all the regions and C to recolor all the regions the same as we've done the tracks. Now it looks absolutely gorgeous. The next thing that we want to do is flatten all of our take folders. The reason for that is it's storing loads and loads of audio that we don't need. What you can do is you can just select the region you like and you can press Option Shift U and that'll flatten the take folder like that. Or if you go up to this little arrow here, you can do flatten. Unless you know how to do crossfades and stuff like that, I wouldn't do flatten and merge, just because that can create clicks and pops later. So flatten's good enough. Give it a good save after that. Everyone loves a good save, don't they? With all of the take folders flattened, we can now empty our audio bin of all the unused files. The easiest way to do this is just to press F to open up the project bin, and then press Shift and U, and that will select all the unused files. You can check that by clicking on Edit here, select Unused, and then delete. This is a permanent step, so it's really important you're actually in the session that you're going to send to someone else, and not your master session where you might want to go back and recomp something later. You can delete these once the track's finished and released and stuff. Like, you don't need to keep that stuff for years, but maybe whilst you're still in production, it's worth hanging on to old takes. So you can check that now. If I press Shift U again, it's not selected anything. So we've deleted all the unused files. Ding! Now we've reduced the file size, we can close the project bin, open up the mixer window, and you can see I've got loads of plugins I'm not using. The easiest way to get rid of all of these is, and do a save before you do this, just in case you get a beach ball of death, then go up to the settings here, which if you can't access, just press Option and X and it'll open up the channel strip configuration for you here. And you want to select setting menu there. If you've got that showing already, you can just go straight up and you can say remove bypass plugins. You see that? It's taken away all the plugins I'm not using. Removing all the bypass plugins is really, really handy because basically I can't accidentally unbypass something and change the sound by accident, or whoever I'm sending it to can't accidentally add the distortion I didn't even want on the guitar in the first place. And now I can do settings again, and we can do remove empty insert slots. And you'll see what this is going to do. It's basically going to move all of the plugins as high up the chain as possible and remove all the empty slots. So now you can leave a gap between the plugins that they've put on and the plugins you've put on. And that way you can always trace back who did what. It's really cool. Great. So the final step is just to listen through and check it sounds as good as it did before, check it sounds the same. And if it does, do a bounce and put the bounce in the session or include it when you send it to someone, because it's so handy to have a rough mix or a production bounce when you're working on something, because later down the line you can refer back to it. You can check, like, does it sound better? Does it have all the right parts in? Did I lose any vibe of like the production? Is there any sort of special moments that I really liked when I first listened to the song that I haven't accentuated enough? All those things. It's super, super handy. So yeah, I think that's it. Close the session, zip it up. Now it's probably under 2 gig. You can just send it over WeTransfer for free. If you found this video useful, you might also like the video that I've done on how to export stems from Logic Pro. And if there's anything you want to know, any advanced or intermediate production techniques, just let me know and I'll make a video on them and put them up. Ding!